to cost. The interesting thing is visuals from inside the ship where these very wealthy men are make it look like a sci-fi film, only much, much smaller. They're in a very tight space for whatever large amount of money they paid for it. So they're going to take this 20-hour trip to the International Space Station. I think the view is going to be maybe somewhat remarkable. They aren't pure tourists, even though they're often referred to as such. They have engaged in an array in training, and they will take part in a variety of different experiments while in space. Nothing super complicated, obviously. They will reach the station where inside they will meet with 3 Americans and a German who will invite them in. I'm sorry if all of these sound like jokes about different nationalities. There are also 3 Russian cosmonauts on the space station. They are in a special area. The Russians can choose to let the visitors inside or not. But basically, they're going to be doing their experiments and probably trying to enjoy and live in the moment as much as they possibly can. I think it might be clear by now that between Elon Musk's SpaceX and Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin company, NASA is essentially outsourcing more and more of the different aspects of space exploration to companies that feel like they can make a profit. The question is whether they will, and the question is how this affects the rest of us and how we can interact with that sort of space travel.
And in the US, Hollywood actor Will Smith has been banned from attending the Oscars for 10 years. This in response to his slapping of comedian Chris Rock at this year's Academy Awards. Smith preemptively resigned from the Academy last week and said he would accept any punishment handed down. The Academy also apologized for its handling of the situation and for allowing Smith to stay and accept his Best Actor award. Well, stay with us. Up next is the France 24 interview with former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko just after this.
Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is Petro Poroshenko. He's Ukraine's former president. He was president between 2014 and 2019. He joins us from Kiev. Mr. Poroshenko, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much indeed.
Mr. Poroshenko, you were just in Chernihiv. Chernihiv is the largest town to date to come back under Ukrainian control after weeks of Russian siege. It is 150 kilometers north of Kiev, near the border with Russia and Belarus. So after what was found in Borodyanka, after what was found especially in Bucha, did you witness similar things, similar crimes, I should say, in Chernihiv?
The tragedy is never similar. Tragedy of Bucha is the symbol of the massacre of Russian troops organized here in Kiev region. Tragedy in Mariupol, tragedy in Akhtirka, tragedy in Gostomel, tragedy in Borzel, tragedy in Irpin, tragedy in Chernigov. This is the tragedy in the world, which is brought by the Russian barbarian. Civilians, they are raping the women on behalf of their children. They are killing without any explanation elderly people. And this is definitely will stay forever for those who participate in this massacre. And our initiative today is those who was recognize and identify in these tragedies. Definitely we should create, same way like list of Magnitsky in Russia, now we should create list of Bucha, list of Borodyanka, list of Chernihiv, but let's name it list of Bucha. And those people who definitely need to be prosecuted, need to be punished, that never again this tragedy repeat. We will coordinate our efforts with our European partners, including the French, with our American partners. We have a technology can identify the faces of those who killing civilians, who come to Ukraine to provide this disastrous thing and be responsible. We need now to fight against genocide, against Ukrainian people. This is exactly what they do. And with that situation, I think that the punishment for this barbarian, international sanction before and after Bucha massacre definitely should be different. We still have the war, but the nature of the war after Bucha is changed. The sanction should be more devastating, firmer, and the Bucha list for those responsible for crimes to be prosecuted according to international law and in Ukrainian court, because they make crimes here in Ukraine against Ukrainian people. And I absolutely confident that Russia should be thrown away from the International Council of the Human Rights, because Russia have not anymore the right to speak about the human rights after the Bucha. And I call on Ukrainian international partners now, please, return to Ukraine, and with your presence in Bucha, in Chernihiv, in Gostomel and in Borodyanka, just start to be a symbol of solidarity with Ukraine. And the things is now, if we try to explain what's going on and why is the compromise with Russia is impossible after Bucha, because Putin wanna have all of us dead, and we wanna live. Putin wanna wipe Ukraine from the world map, and we wanna live in our country with a 1,000-year history. And with this situation, definitely, it's impossible to find out a compromise between devil and a normal human society in Ukraine with a European future.
Mr. Poroshenko, from what you just said and the emotional way in which you phrased it, it means that there shouldn't be any talk with Vladimir Putin, yet this is what the Zelensky administration is trying to do. They're trying to talk with the Russians to negotiate. You're saying we don't talk to the devil.
Look, I have 5 years of experience for negotiation with Putin. Discuss the amnesty for the criminals who make these crimes in Bucha. It shouldn't be the discussion for the barbarian who do all the things in different towns of Ukraine. But you cannot find any people in the world who want peace more than we Ukrainian ones. And we should together need to force Putin to peace. And the point number one, which should be immediately discussed, ceasefire, unconditional, without any preliminary talks. Stop killing Ukrainians. Stop fire. Point number two, withdraw Russian troops. Point number three, withdraw heavy artillery and weapons. And then let's discuss the principle about the European security and the principle for the global security.
Right.
There is but at the same time, it cannot be integrity and independence and sovereignty of Ukraine.
Right.
Because I can tell you, if in the year 2008, on Bucharest summit, if Ukraine will have received the membership action plan in NATO, and in the year 2013 or 14, Ukraine can obtain the full membership in NATO, definitely it would be no aggression in Crimea, no aggression in Donbass, and no full-fledged war against Ukraine.
Mr. Poroshenko, do you sense that the Russians have abandoned Kyiv, the north, and they're now focusing on the east? You just mentioned Donbass. Do you believe that Vladimir Putin might be trying to partition Ukraine?
Definitely not, because I'm proud that it was me as a president of Ukraine and Supreme Commander-in-Chief of Ukraine in the year 2014-2019 create the armed forces. And these new NATO standard armed forces stopped Russian troops and threw him away from Kiev. And he understands that this is impossible to keep the front against Ukrainian armed forces for 2,000 kilometers. And they make a decision to fight against Ukrainian women, Ukrainian children, and Ukrainian elderly people. And with that situation, it was not Putin who made a decision to withdraw his troops from Kiev, but these troops would be encircled by Ukrainian armed forces. And he's saving his troops, withdraw him back to Belarus, another country who is aggressor against Ukraine, and send them to Donbass. We just want to make a statement, we never give up. But Putin not stop attacking us. Putin said to the whole world that this is the de-escalation. De-escalation a la Putin means words, no deeds. And with this situation, definitely, we in Kiev continue to prepare to fight, to protect, to defend Kiev from the Russian troops. And this must be vigilant, and we do not allow Putin to destroy Kiev. We do not allow Putin to destroy Ukraine, and we are ready for the process to meet him, to meet Russian troops.
Very quickly, because we're running out of time, the U.S. Senate anonymously voted a so-called Lend-Lease bill for Ukraine, which would, in a nutshell, expedite arms sales to Ukraine. Do you believe this is, the House still needs to approve it, but it seems a given. Do you think that this could be a game changer in Ukraine's objective to arm itself with really the weapon it believes it needs?
Thank you very much to United States senators. Thank you very much to U.S. administration and leadership, to the President Biden. And this is the implementation of my 5 steps plans, which I proposed 3 weeks ago. Point number 1, Lend-Lease, from nutrition to ammunition. Point number 2, the second front, for sanction and embargo must be hell for Putin. Point number 3, Bucha list. Point number 4, the European perspective for Ukraine, and point number 5, Marshall Plan. We have also very positive message for the Marshall Plan from all our Western partners, and I call to the French people, please do the same as United States Senate. Make act about Lend-Lease, but from the French side. This is extremely important.
Petro Poroshenko, I want to thank you very much for being with us from the streets of Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. And I want to thank you for watching this edition of The Interview here on France 24.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Bienvenidos a las noticias de France 24.
Thanks very much for joining us. أهلا بكم في ثقافة في عدد اليوم. Ravi de vous retrouver pour Afrique Hebdo. Au programme cette semaine.
This storm has hit New York City a lot.
To be a president. 3, 2, 1.
Madagascar fait face à une seconde vague meurtrière.
Almost 99 million of you watch us every week. So thank you.
Shukran.
Gracias. Your confidence means a lot to us.
Muchas gracias.
شكرا على هذه الثقة.
Thank you.
Merci du fond de mon cœur.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
It's 11:30 p.m. here in the French capital. You're watching live from Paris. I'm Julia Kim. Our top stories this hour. At least 50 people are confirmed dead at Kramatorsk train station in eastern Ukraine. Thousands of civilians were there trying to flee Russia's offensive. The US accusing Moscow of, quote, yet another horrific atrocity. Ukraine's fight is our fight, says European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen. She and an EU delegation are in Kyiv to support President Volodymyr Zelensky. And amid a fresh wave of violence, Israel's Prime Minister says he'll give security forces, quote, full freedom. It comes after they shot dead a suspected Palestinian gunman who killed 3 people in Tel Aviv. At least 50 people, including 2 children, have been killed after rockets hit a train station in eastern Ukraine. Dozens more were injured in the attack on Kramatorsk station, which was packed with mostly women and children. Thousands of civilians have been trying to take a train out of the Donbass region, ahead of an escalation in Russia's offensive. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and other leaders blame the strike on Russia. Moscow, though, denies responsibility.
These civilians were trying to flee when 2 missiles targeted the train station of Kramatorsk in the country's east. Bodies are still scattered on the site of the attack as medics and passers-by scurry to help those who survived.
Everything blew up all of a sudden. Many people were killed.
Our team had been filming at this very station for the past 3 days. It's here that people come in hopes of fleeing towards the west. The Ukrainian authorities have warned people in the east to evacuate. Many people are in tears as they struggle to come to grips with what's just happened. Bodies still line the floor, and the casualty count keeps going up. Personal items are scattered everywhere. This man says his grandmother was killed in the attack. They had just arrived at the station, and by chance he'd stepped away for a few minutes.
I just got her lifeless body out of the car. I had gone to get some cigarettes over there when the bombing started. I saw my grandmother was dead, and I ran to help people over there a little further away.
It was also a close call for this woman, who says she'd been planning to leave the town aboard one of the trains at the station.
I was lucky. I was on the other side of the tracks.
One of the 2 missiles lies partially intact outside the station. On it, the words 4 children are written.
It's the Russian fascists. They wrote on the missile that the attack was to avenge their children.
Just a few days ago, the station of Kramatorsk was a bustling place, bursting with long queues of people trying to catch a train westwards. These images were shot a few days ago. People were already trying to get out, fearing attacks like these could happen. Casualties are likely to rise. Many people wounded in the attack are still fighting for life. They've been brought to nearby hospitals for treatment.
Well, with the latest developments on the ground, here's France 24's Catherine Norris-Trent in Kharkiv.
Horrifying scenes indeed coming out of Kramatorsk, where mid-morning on Friday a Toshka-U ballistic missile was fired into the crowd there, a very large crowd. It's estimated around 4,000 people were waiting outside the station in the eastern Ukrainian town, waiting to board trains to evacuate them further west. Local authorities had called on people to evacuate from the region, warning of an imminent large-scale offensive. So lots of people, among them elderly and the children, had been waiting outside to try and board those trains. The local governor said that this attack had been deliberate by Russian forces and that it was designed to sow panic and fear among the population. He classified them as war crimes, as other Ukrainian officials has. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine has said that this was a monstrous attack, and indeed the scenes of carnage, very difficult to watch, very difficult to describe. Bloodied suitcases, even teddy bears of some of the children among the victims. We know that now many others have been taken to local hospitals where medical officials say they're struggling to cope with just the number of people.
Is very clear. Ukraine belongs to the European family. We've heard your request loud and clear. And today we're here to give you a first positive answer. In this envelope, dear Volodymyr, there is an important step towards EU membership.
I'm personally grateful for the fifth package of sanctions, but I believe that it's not enough. That is why I am asking for help in the form of sanctions. They must be toughened. Otherwise, Russia does not want to listen to anything or anybody.
Well, the EU has adopted a fifth round of sanctions against Russia, targeting the country's energy sector for the first time. They include an embargo on Russian coal imports, as well as a ban on transactions with 4 Russian banks and blacklist